10 years is a massive time span in the gaming industry. During this time, we've experienced countless revolutions, innovations, and shifts through entire generations of games. But can we pick out the best games from this wild stream? Well, I decided to answer this question and present to you my massive collection. Which you might totally disagree with, because we're all different and we all have different tastes. In this video, I'll list the most incredible games of the last 10 years. Games that can truly hook you for 100 hours, if not more. So, I won't drag this out, and I hope you all enjoy watching. Let's go! Red Dead Redemption 2. What can I say about this game? It's a masterpiece. The best game I've ever played. Yeah, you're probably thinking, damn, this guy's favorite game changes every time. But actually, that's exactly how it is. And for the most part, there's no real ranking in this top list. Every game in this top is unique. Personally for me. And with each one, I've seen more than one sunrise. And I've lived entire separate fascinating lives. And how many times these games have helped me during tough times. To escape reality completely into these worlds and mentally reboot in them. I honestly tried to find significant flaws, but in Red Dead Redemption 2, literally everything is on point. Yeah, there were minor bugs. Yeah, the beginning is slightly drawn out, but all of that is so tiny and insignificant compared to what awaits the player throughout 70 or even more hours. The story, graphics, physics, meticulous world detail, hunting and fishing simulators. Damn, I just can't list everything that's in this game. In Red Dead Redemption 2, you don't just play it, you live in it. And you get so attached to the characters that in the end, whether you want to or not, your eyes tear up on their own like a little girl. Friends, play and enjoy this game. And I'll give you some advice. Don't rush, complete all the side missions because in the end, it'll add those unforgettable extra emotions. And definitely don't make hasty judgments based on the first chapter, please. Yeah, it's slightly drawn out. I used to whine about it myself and almost skip the game, but trust me on this. If you get past the first chapter, nothing will stop you. It's a masterpiece, just a masterpiece. Little Nightmares 2. This is an excellent game, friends, with a subtle hint at the adult world. Yeah, it's kind of short, but that doesn't make it any less interesting. The game shows the ugly world of adults, which is the cause of fear for a small person who has to grow up, mature, and turn into one of those same adult monsters. The first part brilliantly showed such a plague of modernity as consumerism. The thirst for more and more, and eventually this consumerism just grinds up the child's world, leaving only an adult shell. By the way, you can also take note of the first part. It also goes by pretty quickly and the story is no less interesting. So in the second part, a different beast is pointed out. It's mass media, depriving people of their own individualism, leading them into a made-up world while the real one gradually and imperceptibly just dies. This is a world of people who can simply kill you for depriving them of access. The adventures of Six and Mono, these are the main protagonists, are nothing other than stages of development and growing up of children in the modern world, whom adults try to change, and of course, its main figures of influence, such as consumption, vices, propaganda effects, and violence. And as a rule, no matter what children try to do, no matter how hard they try, they have one outcome. They become the same adults, with the same vices and the same flaws. And you can build as many theories as you want during the game, but the revelation will still come to you just a couple of moments before the finale, and will give you food for thought for a very long time. This is an amazing horror with a beautiful story in its own way, which can be completed in one breath in about 7 to 8 hours. Detroit Become Human. I'll start by saying that this isn't just a game, it's a real breakthrough in the interactive cinema genre. I generally like everything from Quantic Dream, because here you don't just have stupid button mashing when needed and follow here and there. And in the end, all characters are killed off, because that's how it should be. That's how it was originally written by the game. No, Quantic Dream has never had problems with story variability. For just the first scene in Detroit, there are 6 different outcome variants. On top of all this, if your character dies, well, consider that you're saying goodbye to them forever. In their games, almost all time is devoted to empathizing with the heroes. They really love raising life questions, often with a touch of mysticism and fantasy. But this, of course, only makes the stories more unusual. I don't know how they manage it, but when you find yourself in their worlds, you really experience genuine emotions. Detroit is no exception. This is really something, guys. Just incredible. Graphics, acting, musical accompaniment. There's really nothing to say here. Everything is just top-notch. Detroit is very soulful and very atmospheric. It won't appeal only if you're, I don't know, a stone or some great critic who will think about things like, why are the androids like this and not different? Well, I didn't imagine all this that way. You don't need to nitpick everything. You just need to relax and decide the fates of machines. Like, for example, if you were watching a movie or series where you could just choose storylines. Definitely, for me, this is just a masterpiece and an unforgettable adventure that was impossible to tear away from for 12 hours in my case. So yeah, I highly recommend this game. And if you're not familiar with this work of art, then I strongly recommend this game first from this top list. This is a legendary game. I'm not afraid to say that this is the best game in the interactive cinema genre of all time. Elden Ring, the most ambitious game from Software, absorbing all the best from previous projects of the Japanese studio. Friends, if you're skeptical about gaming press ratings screaming about 10 out of 10, then this time you're really wrong. Even though perfect games don't exist, Elden Ring came as close to perfection as possible. Elden Ring is assembled from elements of the Souls series, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, but every narrative element and every game mechanic here is taken to a fundamentally new level. The whole game is one solid upgrade of the Japanese studio's previous works. Yeah, there are the same animations, the same sounds, familiar enemies, and even characters. Whether this is good or bad, well, let each player decide for themselves. The visuals in this game are without any doubt the best component of Elden Ring. And here I'm not talking so much about graphics, which doesn't even come close to next gen. I'm talking about design and environment. A game with such stunning work by artists should definitely have a photo mode. Even unremarkable looking locations like the Weeping Peninsula, combined with musical accompaniment, create just an indescribable vibe. This is a huge world hiding many mysteries and secrets, where you can spend dozens of hours without even reaching the first story boss. A world where, having spent hundreds of hours, you want to return again and again to once more enjoy magnificent battles, mesmerizing location landscapes that amaze the imagination, and of course, to once again touch this real work of art. Assassin's Creed Origins. In childhood, I adored the history of ancient Egypt. I even tried to study hieroglyphs. I wanted to visit the place of ancient civilization. I even had 2 scrolls that are still lying around somewhere, gathering dust. I really wanted to see that ancient world with my own eyes, one that once became one of the great ones. And so Ashraf Ismail's team gave me such an opportunity to dive into ancient Egypt. And actually, this setting was just a matter of time before they'd implement it in the series, because even in the first part, there were these very foundations for an ancient Egypt setting. All that was left was to wait, and here's what came out in the end. The world in this game is simply delightful. It's so big that when you climb some peak, an entire horizon stretches out before you. And your jaw literally starts to drop from these landscapes. How gigantic this world is. And looking at all this, an involuntary exploratory spirit begins to manifest in you. You constantly want to discover new places, and the game keeps throwing these new places at you. Whether it's some lost tomb in a pyramid, caves, small villages, cities. The list can go on. There's so much interesting stuff here. The game has a lot of beautiful landscapes. And what architecture there is here, guys. Such landmarks as the Lighthouse of Alexandria, pyramids, sphinxes. Believe me, you'll definitely remember them for a long time. In short, you can get lost in this world for many dozens of hours. I got huge pleasure from being in this world. And honestly, it's been a long time since there were games that drew you in for many hours of concrete world exploration. I want to thank all the developers who worked on this game. You fulfilled my childhood dream in some way. To visit ancient Egypt. And yes, the game isn't perfect, but it showed a really new level for the series. Well, as for atmosphere, in my opinion, no other game conveys the atmosphere of Egypt and the desert like this one. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. If briefly, this is the game of the decade. The story makes you dive into the world of The Witcher, where every character has their uniqueness, where you listen to any dialogue with pleasure and interest, where it's interesting to just explore the surrounding world, where you worry about the fate not only of the main character, but also of characters you've just met on your path. The graphics in the game are excellent, plus there was even a next-gen update. Everything looks just beautiful even now, and with graphics mods, it completely destroys any modern releases. Guys, you're amazed when you remember that this game is already 10 years old. How could something like this come out in 2015? It just doesn't fit in your head. Quest Squint. Witcher contracts. The game definitely won't let you get bored for a minute. The DLC, in my opinion, is no worse than the main game itself. You can say it's a direct continuation of the Witcher story. Oh, guys, and this Tucson, this fairy tale landscape and atmosphere. I could literally turn on The Witcher right now and replay it. The game has many different events that depend on your choice. There are many endings, and they're all unique. I'm honestly shocked that many people miss this game. How is that even possible? If you somehow haven't played this masterpiece yet, then you're at least strange people who don't know what real quality games are. So go and urgently buy this game, especially since it costs practically pennies now, and play through it. Spend the time, you won't regret it. Then thank me. This is one of those cases, when you want to erase your memory to replay the game again. And I'll repeat, friends, in my opinion, this is the game of the decade. Mafia Definitive Edition. A remake of the first part that will make you regret if at the time it seemed boring and uninteresting to you. Well, due to its time period, that is, the 30s of the 20th century, and more slow-paced gameplay compared to, for example, GTA, we'll play as an ordinary taxi driver who ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and helped members of a mafia group, and soon we'll again find ourselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they'll ask us about what we did, and to defend ourselves and get revenge, we'll join the Mafia. The story is presented very well. They'll show us the whole path from an ordinary working man who honestly earned money, working as a taxi driver, to how a person can become a gangster who kills people inconvenient to him without thinking. Although he pretends he doesn't care. But in the end, everything comes down to the main rule of the Mafia. You can't quit the Mafia. The graphics in the game look stunning. The locations are beautiful, reflections are such that you don't even need RTX. The sounds perfectly emphasize and convey the atmosphere of that time. A dramatic story with, though yes, cliched, but still logical ending is worth trying, and seeing the life of a mafia family from the inside. This game definitely goes on the shelf of my favorite games. It brought me to tears and a huge storm of emotions. I was so immersed in this story that emotions just took over me. This was one of the best playthroughs in recent times. A complete playthrough of the storyline took me only 10 hours, so if you don't mind 10 hours, then definitely try this game. Horizon Forbidden West. Can a masterpiece be better than a masterpiece? And isn't this the best port from Sony? I'll say right away, guys, the game turned out great. The story was significantly expanded and twisted so much that your brains literally boil. And what's important? Side quests became more woven into the main story and stopped being boring and dull like they were in Horizon Zero Dawn. The combat system was completely reworked and supplemented with various mechanics that made battles more dynamic and exciting. The game world became much more alive and rich. The visual component is beyond praise. This is probably the most beautiful game in recent times. Seriously, guys, if we take the same genre with Wild Nature, what game can Horizon Forbidden West lose to in visuals and graphics? That's a question for you, by the way. Yeah, there are a couple of beautiful games, but to outdo Horizon, I really doubt that. The DLC, Burning Shores, organically continues the main storyline of Aloy. A couple of new machines were added, a couple of new bows, and all this is obviously not the level of, say, Phantom Liberty from CD Projekt, but rather, just a logical completion of the story, the adventures of red-haired Aloy. In short, the game pulls a 10 out of 10, and fans of the first part will definitely love it 100%. And you'll rarely see such beauty in any other game. So guys, try it. Hellblade. Senua's Sacrifice. It's hard to find words to describe this game, but I'll try. The gameplay here isn't the deepest. Yeah, the fights are quite simple, but they don't irritate. The puzzles here are quite nicely integrated into the surrounding world. But the game isn't about that. The main thing in the game is the setting, friends, sound, and atmosphere, and it's executed just 100% in this game. Immersion happens instantly. The game world drew me in and doesn't let go even now when the game is already finished. Sound literally crawls into your brain and drives you crazy. The oppressive atmosphere is exclusively dark and constantly presses harder and harder. The deeper you dive, the more it seems to you that you've really gone insane and lost your mind along with Senua. Somewhere in the middle of the game, you yourself stop understanding where schizophrenia is and where real narrative is. And I want to give advice. You need to play exclusively at night and in complete darkness. Sometimes it seemed to me that someone was standing near me and whispering in my ear. The sensations are simply indescribable, definitely. And yes, if you have bad headphones, you probably won't get full immersion. So I recommend playing only with good headphones or speakers. The sensations from the game depend 50%, if not more, on sound. In general, guys, the game is definitely a must install. 100% completion took me exactly 12 hours. The game goes by quite quickly, but the emotions, believe me, will stay with you for a very, very long time. A game called Stray. The main plot is simple and without special revelations. Humanity died out long ago, and nature took power over cities, clothing everything in bright green tones. You won't be given long to observe these beauties. Pretty quickly, our kitty ends up in an abyss like Alice in Wonderland. Flying through the rabbit hole, we find ourselves in a completely different atmospheric world, at the very bottom of the slums where even sunlight doesn't reach. Essentially, our goal is to just get back home, and this path will be very difficult and thorny. You know what's good about Stray? It gives the feeling of a classic quest. Well, those same ones that were in the mid-90s. Many remember and love those quests. And Stray conceptually, not at the gameplay level, but rather structurally, at the story level, is a classic quest. This thought didn't leave me throughout the entire playthrough. And you know, I think games nowadays shouldn't be evaluated by budget, graphics, or the number of hours needed to complete them. No, games are better evaluated based on the emotions they gave the player. This game is the best in recent years in the category of emotions received. All these AAA projects pulled out of thin air, repetitions of the same games, crazy prices, bugs, suffocating grind. Honestly, all these new releases are already stuck in my throat, but Stray is a completely different matter. Original, just the sweetest story. Not drawn out, interesting. You want to return to it again and again. The game's ending will just bring tears. And tears not after the fact because of what happened, but because of the meaning that the developers put into the plot. So even though it's indie, I definitely recommend trying it. Baldur's Gate 3. The best game of 2023. We could end the description there. Well, but if without jokes, every gamer should definitely get acquainted with this game personally. My first playthrough of the game took 190 hours, and it was unforgettable. And when it came to the final quest and the game finally ended, to the credits and magnificent music, I felt a soft emptiness and gradually increasing sadness. Because my adventure had finally ended. How many emotions were experienced with this game? It's been a long time since I got such a burst of joy, sadness, uncertainty, and pleasure, all at the same time. A game in which I literally lived recently and from which I didn't want to return to reality. I probably won't talk about gameplay and RPG mechanics here. The variability here in dialogues, events, gameplay is so much that, you know, it's scary to imagine how much time the developers spent on this. Lately, I catch myself thinking that this is my most favorite game. But is such a thing possible? A bunch of beloved franchises flash through my head that I madly love and am always ready to replay again and again. But as soon as I return to Baldur's Gate 3, one thing still sounds in my head. Yes, perhaps this is my most favorite game. Well, at least in 2023, and to this day, it definitely remains one of the most beloved. I definitely recommend it. You know, I'd even say this, I strongly recommend it, even if you're not a fan of the D&D genre, which, by the way, I also wasn't until I got acquainted with Baldur's Gate 3. In general, trust me, just try it. Then thank me. I'm 100% sure of that. Metro Exodus. This part of the game made me truly fall in love with this game series. And if we're talking about the two previous parts, Metro 2033 and Last Light, Then general impressions, emotions, feelings of euphoria and exodus, I had much more. Despite minor flaws, the game really impresses with its development. A quality, well-thought-out plot, dialogues, solid world detail, and generally good gameplay. All this in full volume makes you love this game and spend many hours in it. After watching the final cutscene, there were no negative emotions. I didn't want to immediately close or delete this game, no. This was a real feeling of delight from having played a really good game that I truly liked. And in general, the plot, as I already said, is well thought out. You can see that they didn't write it in a couple of days. Everything is done very quality. It was a bit sad, of course, when I finished playing the game because I wanted to wander around various locations some more, collect something, upgrade weapons and equipment for the next battle. But I'll say that this was the first playthrough of this magnificent game, which I will definitely replay again in the future, maybe even several times. Cyberpunk 2077. Thanks to this game, I realized that sleep is a thing for weaklings. Despite bugs and rawness in some technical aspects, this game, I personally consider, is just a masterpiece. Completely unique, filled with some phenomenal attention to detail, telling a heart-wrenching story, exactly as the geniuses at CD Projekt Red always knew how to do. Sometimes they say that the setting in this or that work is also a full-fledged character of the story. But it seems to me that no one even came close in this regard to Night City, which doesn't just mesmerize with its atmosphere and art design, but which literally tells us a separate, much more global story compared to the main storyline. I dare say that in this regard, the developers created an absolutely revolutionary product that would have gone down in history almost like Hideo Kojima's games. But unfortunately, development hell, which led to the terrible technical state of the game, and a huge amount of cut content, didn't allow such an ambitious project to shine at full strength at its release. But how glad I am that after long and painful 3 years of fixes and expansions, Cyberpunk was finally recognized by gamers. Yes, even though the stories of some characters you got so attached to weren't destined to get their happy ending, nevertheless the game itself was able to get it, and this in my opinion is just beautiful. Days Gone. Ben Studios managed to create a real, living person. Leave him in a believable dead world and make an excellent story full of experiences and sudden twists out of it. It will irritate you with reasonable understatements, stupid but logical from the character's point of view. Actions, repetitive tasks, the need to constantly refuel your bike and look for ammo, and the game will be able to irritate you with much more. But Days Gone, trust me, definitely won't leave anyone indifferent. Watching the main character in circumstances that are completely ordinary for us as players but stressful for the hero has never been so pleasant and interesting. And I'm not talking about the game's plot now, no, but just during another camp cleanup, he behaves exactly as a living person would behave in his place. I don't know if they consulted with psychologists during development for such deep psychological development of the main character, but this is definitely what other characters in games are missing now. I hope that after this video you too will be touched by Deacon Saint. John's character, enjoy his comments with and without reason, and see that lifeless wastelands have never been so real. The only pity, guys, is that a sequel will apparently never happen. Sony, you see, wasn't satisfied with the sales and disbanded the entire team. Although yes, they had plans for a sequel, which the open ending hints at. Uncharted 4. At release, everyone praised this game as the main exclusive of the platform, as the best adventure, as a masterpiece in 2016. Ironically, even almost 10 years later, Uncharted is still magnificent. It feels like you're not playing a game but watching the best action movie of your life. Which, yes, doesn't flash with effects. Or a billion epic moments. Though there is such stuff here too, the game is dominated by precisely the feeling of, being a pioneer or something. Magnificent music, many different events, a plot that doesn't have time to get boring. And it would seem that such things exist in many places, but specifically here it's done and presented so correctly that you don't want to step away from the game at all. From prison to jungles, from abandoned settlements to lively streets, Uncharted 4 surprises stronger and stronger each time. And what beautiful direction there is here. There's still no better game in this regard. The best chase in video game history, the bell tower, ship, and much more. All this gets so embedded in memory that it's simply impossible to forget. Graphics in 2016 produced just a wow effect, and the PC versions, guys, that's just a bomb. New shaders, HDR textures, high-resolution 4K. All this makes the familiar adventure even brighter. And those who haven't played the game yet and will play it for the first time on PC with beautiful graphics and great optimization. Guys, I really envy you with White Envy. How lucky you are. Well, these are the kind of games that keep you up till sunrise. So immersive you just lose track of time. And I don't regret a single hour spent on them. Every emotion was worth it. Of course, everyone has their own favorites. It's impossible to please everyone, since tastes differ. Share your top games in the comments, the ones that kept you up all night. I'd love to read them, maybe even discover something new. If you enjoyed the video, a like would mean a lot. And if you're not subscribed yet, consider hitting that button. There's plenty of cool stuff ahead. Thanks so much for watching, sending hugs and good vibes. Take care, and see you in the next one. Bye.